Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. with the feeling that someone is watching you? Not just a strange feeling, but the certainty that something is standing in the dark, waiting. This story begins with a man named Daniel Carter. Daniel never believed in ghosts. He never believed in demons. And he definitely didn't believe that a house could be alive. But everything changed the night he moved into Hillridge House. At first, the house looked normal. Old, yes. Quiet, yes. But nothing unusual. The wooden floors creaked a little. The walls smelled like dust and old paint. And the wind outside made the windows shake during the night. Daniel thought it was perfect. A cheap house in a quiet town. Exactly what he needed after leaving the chaos of the city. The neighbors, however, acted strangely when they saw him moving in. An old woman across the street stopped sweeping her porch and stared at him. Not curious. Not friendly. Afraid. Daniel waved. She didn't wave back. Instead, she slowly walked inside her house and closed the door. That was the first sign something wasn't right. But Daniel ignored it. The first night was calm. Nothing strange happened. No noises. No shadows. No nightmares. Just silence. But on the second night, things started to change. Daniel woke up suddenly. His eyes opened in the darkness. The room was cold. Much colder than before. He checked his phone. 3:17 a.m. That's when he heard it. A whisper. Soft. Almost impossible to understand. At first, Daniel thought it was the wind outside. But the whisper came again. Closer. Right next to his ear. A voice. Low. Broken. Almost like someone who hadn't spoken in years. The voice said, "Leave." Daniel froze. His heart started beating faster. He turned on the lamp beside his bed. The room was empty. No one there. The door was closed. The window was locked. Daniel sat there for several minutes, listening carefully. Nothing. Just silence again. He laughed nervously. "It's just the house," he said to himself. "Old houses make strange noises. That's normal." At least, that's what he believed. Until the third night. That night, Daniel didn't wake up because of a whisper. He woke up because something touched his foot. Slowly. Cold fingers sliding across his skin. Daniel jumped out of bed. The room was dark again. His breathing became heavy. "Hello?" he said. No answer. He grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. The light moved across the floor. Under the bed. Nothing. But when he looked toward the door, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The door was open. Just a little. And in the small gap between the door and the wall, something moved. A shadow. Tall. Too tall to be human. Daniel felt something strange inside his head. A pressure. Like someone was pushing thoughts into his mind. And then the whisper returned. Not beside his ear this time. Not inside the room. Inside his head. "Daniel!" He dropped the phone. The flashlight spun across the floor. The shadow behind the door disappeared instantly. But the voice stayed. Whispering again. "Daniel, you shouldn't be here." Daniel ran to the door and opened it quickly. The hallway was empty. Dark. Silent. But something felt wrong. The air smelled strange. Like burned wood. Or something rotten. And then Daniel noticed something that hadn't been there before. On the wall of the hallway. Written slowly. Like it had been scratched with nails. 3 words. "Get out now!" Daniel stared at the message for several seconds. His mind racing. His hands shaking. And that's when he heard something else. Footsteps. coming from the basement. Slow, heavy, one step at a time. Daniel didn't know it yet, but the thing in the basement had been waiting for over 40 years. And now that Daniel had entered the house, it finally had someone new to talk to, someone new to use, someone new to possess. And what Daniel would discover in that basement would prove something terrifying. Some houses are haunted, but Hillridge House wasn't haunted. The house itself was the prison, and whatever was trapped inside it was finally waking up. Daniel stood in the hallway, staring at the scratched words on the wall. "Get out now!" His heart was beating so loudly that it almost drowned out the sound coming from the basement. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Step. 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 They were deliberate. Not random noises. Not pipes. Not wood expanding. Someone, or something, was walking down there. Daniel tried to convince himself it was an animal. Maybe a raccoon. Maybe a stray dog that somehow got inside. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. Animals don't walk like that. Animals don't take slow, careful steps. And animals definitely don't whisper your name. The basement door was at the end of the hallway. Old. Paint peeling. The metal handle slightly rusted. Daniel slowly approached it. Each step felt heavier than the last. His flashlight trembled in his hand. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Complete silence. Daniel stood in front of the door now. Listening. Waiting. Nothing. He placed his hand on the handle. Cold. Ice cold. A strange chill ran through his entire body. And suddenly, the whisper returned. Closer than ever. Right beside his ear. But this time, it wasn't telling him to leave. It was begging. "Don't open it." Daniel spun around quickly. No one. The hallway was empty. But the voice sounded different this time. Desperate. Afraid. Like someone trying to warn him. Daniel's breathing became heavier. Two voices. Two different whispers. One telling him to leave. Another telling him not to open the door. But the footsteps had come from the basement. Which meant something was down there. Watching. Waiting. Daniel slowly turned the handle. The door creaked open. The smell hit him immediately. Rot. Damp wood. And something metallic. Like old blood. The basement was dark. Completely black. The stairs disappeared into the darkness like a mouth swallowing light. Daniel pointed the flashlight downward. The beam of light slowly revealed the steps. Dust. Cobwebs. And strange marks on the walls. Long scratches. Deep. Like someone had tried to claw their way out. Daniel took the first step down. The wood groaned under his weight. Second step. Third step. Halfway down the stairs, he heard something behind him. The basement door. Slowly closing. Daniel turned around. But before he could react, slam. The door shut violently. The sound echoed through the basement like a gunshot. Daniel ran up the stairs and grabbed the handle. Locked. It wouldn't move. He pulled harder. Nothing. Panic started rising in his chest. "Hello?" His voice echoed through the basement. No answer. Just the faint sound of dripping water somewhere in the darkness. Drip. 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 Daniel slowly turned back toward the basement. His flashlight beam moved across the room. Old shelves. Broken furniture. A rusted furnace. And something else. Something in the corner. A chair. Old. Wooden. Bolted to the floor. Daniel walked closer. His stomach tightened. Because the chair wasn't normal. Leather straps hung from the arms. Torn. But still attached. Straps on the legs. Straps across the chest. It looked like something used to hold someone down. Next to the chair, Daniel saw a small table, covered with objects, old photographs, burned candles, and a small recorder. The kind detectives used decades ago. Daniel picked up one of the photographs. A black and white image. A man sitting in that same chair. Thin. Eyes wide. Terrified. And standing behind him was another man. Tall. Expressionless. Holding a book. Daniel flipped the photo over. There was writing on the back. A name. Father Elias Morn. Daniel's chest tightened. Because he had seen that name before. Earlier that evening. When he signed the house papers. The previous owner. Father Elias Morn. Daniel slowly placed the photo back on the table. Something about this basement was wrong. Very wrong. And that's when the recorder suddenly turned on. By itself. A loud click echoed in the room. Then static. And finally, a voice. Old. Crackling. Terrified. The voice said, "This is recording number 17. Static. Heavy breathing. Then the same voice continued. "If anyone finds this, do not come into this house." More static. Then a whisper in the background. Not the man speaking. Another voice. Low. Inhuman. And the man on the recorder started crying. "I tried to contain it," he sobbed. "But it learned." The whisper grew louder. "And now," the man's voice broke, "it wants another body." The recorder went silent. Daniel felt something cold touch the back of his neck. Slow. Breathing. Right behind him. And a voice that didn't belong to any human whispered into his ear. "Daniel, turn around." Daniel's body froze. The cold breath against the back of his neck didn't feel human. It was too slow. Too heavy. Too wrong. The voice that whispered his name had a strange vibration to it, like two sounds layered together, one deep and one painfully high. "Daniel, turn around." His hands trembled. Every instinct in his body screamed for him to run. But there was nowhere to run. The basement door was locked. The stairs behind him were dark. And whatever was standing there was close enough to touch him. Daniel slowly turned his head. Just a little. Just enough for the flashlight beam to move across the floor. At first he saw nothing. Then the light reached the wall. And that's when he saw the shadow. It stretched across the concrete like a tall, twisted figure. But the proportions were wrong. Its arms were too long. Its head bent at an unnatural angle. And its fingers looked more like claws. Daniel's breathing became shallow. He turned a little more. The flashlight beam rose slowly. Up the wall. Across the old shelves. And finally, it reached the figure standing behind him. Daniel screamed. The thing standing there looked like a man. But only barely. Its skin was pale gray. Stretched tight across its bones. Its eyes were wide open, but completely black. And its mouth was forced into a crooked smile that stretched far too wide across its face. But the worst part wasn't its appearance. It was its voice. Because when it spoke again, the sound came from two places at once. From the creature. And from inside Daniel's own head. "You came downstairs." Daniel stumbled backward. The flashlight fell from his hand. The beam rolled across the floor, spinning wildly and throwing distorted shadows across the basement walls. "Stay away from me!" Daniel shouted. The creature tilted its head slowly, almost curiously, like it was studying him. Then it took one step forward. The sound of its foot touching the floor echoed loudly. Step. Daniel grabbed the nearest object, a broken metal pipe. Don't come closer! But the creature didn't stop. Step. Daniel swung the pipe with all his strength. The metal struck the creature's shoulder. A horrible cracking sound echoed in the basement. But the creature didn't react. It didn't scream. It didn't bleed. It didn't even flinch. Instead, it laughed. A dry, broken sound that echoed from the walls. You think that hurts? Its voice vibrated through the room like distant thunder. Then the creature reached out and grabbed Daniel's wrist. The moment its fingers touched him, Daniel's entire body locked up. His muscles froze. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. And suddenly, images exploded inside his mind. Flashes. Memories. But they weren't his memories. He saw a man sitting in the chair, strapped down, screaming. A priest standing beside him with a black book. Latin words echoing through the room. Candles burning. The air shaking with violent screams. The priest shouting, "Leave this body!" And then the possessed man's head snapped upward. His eyes turned black. And he smiled. Exactly the same smile the creature had now. Daniel felt the creature's grip tighten. "You see now," it whispered. "That priest tried to trap me here." Another image flashed in Daniel's mind. The priest drawing strange symbols on the basement floor. A ritual circle. Blood. Prayers. And finally, the priest screaming as the ritual collapsed. Daniel suddenly understood. The house wasn't haunted. The basement was a prison, and the ritual had trapped the entity here. But something had gone wrong. Very wrong. The creature leaned closer to Daniel's face. Its breath smelled like decay. 40 years. It whispered. "I waited 40 years for someone to open that door again." Daniel tried to fight back. His muscles strained. But the creature's grip was too strong. Its black eyes stared deep into his. And Daniel felt something moving inside his mind. Pushing. Searching. Trying to enter. "Your body will do nicely." Daniel felt a burning pain shoot through his skull. The creature's voice grew louder. Deeper. More powerful. Soon, its voice echoed inside his head. "I will finally leave this house." And Daniel realized something horrifying. The whispers telling him to leave. The warnings. They weren't coming from the entity. They were coming from someone else. Someone still trapped here. Someone still fighting it. And suddenly, a new voice exploded through the basement. Stronger. Angrier. Not a whisper. A command. "Let him go!" The creature's grip instantly loosened. Its black eyes widened. And for the first time, it looked afraid. The voice that echoed through the basement did not sound human. It was deeper. Stronger. Filled with authority. "Let him go." The creature's fingers loosened around Daniel's wrist instantly. Daniel collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. The pressure inside his head disappeared. But the creature did not look at him. Its black eyes were now fixed on something behind Daniel. Something standing near the bottom of the stairs. Daniel slowly turned. At first, he saw nothing but darkness. Then the flashlight beam, still spinning slowly across the floor, passed over the stairs again. And for just a second, a shape appeared. A tall figure standing in the shadows, wearing something long, like a robe. The creature hissed. A horrible, animal-like sound. "No, you're gone." The figure stepped forward. The air in the basement suddenly grew colder. Much colder. The light finally settled on the figure, and Daniel felt his breath stop. It was a man. Or what looked like a man. But his body was faint. Transparent. Like smoke trapped in human form. He wore old priest robes. Burned and torn. And around his neck hung a small silver cross. The same name Daniel had seen on the photograph flashed in his mind. Father Elias Morn. The priest from the picture. The previous owner of the house. The man who had tried to trap the entity. And apparently had never left. The creature's smile disappeared. You failed, it said slowly. The priest's voice was calm. No. He stepped closer. I delayed you. Daniel watched in disbelief. A ghost. A real ghost. Standing between him and the creature. The priest looked down at Daniel. His expression softened. You shouldn't have opened that door. Daniel's voice shook. What is that thing? The priest's eyes darkened. That, he looked at the creature, is not a ghost. The creature laughed. Low and mocking. Oh, Elias, after all these years you still pretend you can stop me. The priest ignored it. He looked back at Daniel. Listen carefully. His voice became urgent. That thing is a demon. Daniel's stomach twisted. A demon that was summoned in this basement more than 40 years ago. Daniel's mind struggled to process the words. Summoned? The priest nodded. Not by me. He pointed toward the chair. That man. Daniel looked at the photograph on the table again. The thin man strapped to the chair. That man was trying to contact spirits. The priest's voice grew darker. But he opened something far worse. The creature grinned again. Yes. Its voice echoed across the basement walls. And when Elias here tried to send me back, the creature's smile widened. He failed. The priest clenched his fists. I trapped you here. For now. The creature tilted its head. 40 years trapped in this house. Its eyes slowly turned toward Daniel. And now, my door is finally open. Daniel felt cold panic spreading through his chest. What does that mean? The priest answered before the creature could. It means the ritual that kept him here is broken. Daniel's heart dropped. And if he enters your body, the priest looked directly into his eyes. He will finally be free. The basement suddenly shook. The creature laughed again. You talk too much, Elias. It raised one long arm. The lights in the basement exploded. Glass shattered. The flashlight flickered violently. And a powerful force slammed the priest backward into the wall. His ghostly body flickered. Daniel scrambled to his feet. What do we do? He shouted. The priest struggled to stand. There is still a way. The creature slowly began walking toward them. Step. 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 Its voice echoed through Daniel's skull. You cannot stop what is already inside him. Daniel froze. Inside him? What does that mean? Daniel whispered. But before the priest could answer, the creature pointed directly at Daniel and smiled. You opened the door. It leaned closer. Which means... Its black eyes widened with excitement. The ritual has already begun. Daniel suddenly felt a violent pain explode inside his head. His vision blurred. The basement spun around him. And deep inside his mind, he heard the demon whisper one final sentence. Your body is already mine. The pain inside Daniel's head felt like fire spreading through his skull. He collapsed to his knees, clutching his temples. Make it stop, he gasped. The basement lights flickered violently. The air vibrated with a low, unnatural hum. The demon watched calmly. almost amused. "You feel it now, don't you?" it said. Daniel's vision blurred. The walls seemed to move. The floor twisted beneath him. Inside his mind, something was pushing, scratching, searching for a way deeper. Father Elias forced himself to stand. His ghostly form flickered like a weak flame in the wind. "Daniel!" the priest shouted. "Listen to me!" Daniel looked up, barely able to focus. "You must fight it!" The demon laughed. "You still believe humans can resist?" It slowly walked in a circle around Daniel, like a predator studying wounded prey. "You opened the door willingly," the demon continued. "That broke the last seal of the ritual." Father Elias shook his head. "The ritual was meant to trap you, not free you." The demon smiled wider. "Yes, but rituals have rules." It crouched beside Daniel. Its black eyes stared into his. "And one of those rules is invitation." Daniel felt his stomach twist. "Invitation?" The demon's voice lowered to a whisper. "When you opened the basement door," it leaned closer, "you invited me closer to your world." Daniel tried to move away, but his arms suddenly locked. Frozen. His fingers began to twitch uncontrollably. The demon slowly grabbed Daniel's arm and pulled up his sleeve. And that's when Daniel saw it. Burned into his skin. A symbol. Dark. Twisted. Like a circle made of jagged lines. It looked ancient. Wrong. And it was glowing faintly beneath his skin. Daniel stared at it in horror. "What is that?" Father Elias looked terrified. "The mark." The demon grinned proudly. "The mark of possession." Daniel tried to rub it away. But the moment he touched it, pain exploded through his arm, like his skin was burning from the inside. The demon stood again. "You feel that?" Daniel screamed as the mark glowed brighter. "That mark means I'm already inside you." Father Elias rushed forward. "No!" But the demon raised its hand. The priest flew backward again, crashing through an old wooden shelf. The demon turned back to Daniel. "But don't worry," it said softly. "I'm not taking you yet." Daniel's voice trembled. "Why not?" The demon's smile slowly widened. "Because the most beautiful part of possession," it leaned closer, "is the struggle." Daniel suddenly felt his right hand move. By itself. His fingers slowly curled into a fist. "No," Daniel whispered. "I didn't move that." The demon laughed. "Exactly." Daniel tried to force his hand open, but it wouldn't respond. His arms slowly lifted, like invisible strings were pulling it upward. Panic flooded his chest. "Stop it!" The demon watched with delight. "You see?" It turned to Father Elias. "His body is already listening to me." The priest stood again, weaker than before. But his eyes burned with determination. "There is still time." The demon rolled its eyes. "Oh, please." Father Elias looked directly at Daniel. "The mark means the connection has started." His voice grew urgent. "But it is not complete yet." Daniel struggled to breathe. "What do we do?" The priest pointed toward the center of the basement floor. Old markings covered the concrete. A faded circle. Strange symbols scratched into the ground. The ritual circle. Daniel followed his gaze. "That's the ritual that trapped the demon." Daniel swallowed. "Can we use it again?" The priest nodded slowly. "Yes." The demon laughed loudly. "You think that broken circle can hold me again?" Father Elias stepped closer to Daniel. "It doesn't need to hold him." Daniel frowned. "Then what does it do?" The priest's expression became grim. "It can force him out of you." Daniel felt a small spark of hope. But the demon's laughter grew louder. "Oh, Elias!" Its voice echoed through the basement like thunder. "You forgot one very important rule." Father Elias went silent. The demon leaned close to Daniel's ear again and whispered, "If the ritual fails this time," its voice dropped into something deep and monstrous, "I don't just take his body." The demon's black eyes locked onto the priest. "I take his soul." Daniel felt the mark on his arm burn even hotter. And suddenly, his head snapped upward. His eyes rolled back. And a voice came out of Daniel's mouth. But it wasn't his voice. It was the demon's. And it said, "You're already too late." Daniel's body suddenly went rigid. His back arched violently. A deep, unnatural growl came from his throat. But Daniel wasn't making that sound. The demon was. Father Elias stepped backward slowly. "Daniel, listen to me," the priest said. But Daniel's head turned slowly toward him. His movements were stiff, like a puppet being controlled by invisible strings. When Daniel spoke again, his voice was layered with something dark and ancient. "You're too late, Elias." Father Elias clenched the small silver cross hanging from his neck. "No." The demon smiled through Daniel's face. "Oh yes." Daniel's eyes slowly opened. And the moment Father Elias saw them, he knew the situation had become far worse. Daniel's eyes were turning black. Not completely. But the darkness was spreading from the center, like ink slowly filling water. "The mark is growing," Father Elias whispered. Daniel's body suddenly stood up. But the movement wasn't natural. His joints bent in strange angles. His head tilted sideways. The demon inside him laughed. "Your little prison failed 40 years ago." Daniel took one slow step toward the priest. "And tonight," step, "it finally breaks." Father Elias raised the cross. "Daniel! Fight it!" Daniel's body stopped moving for a moment. His fingers twitched violently. For a second, Daniel's real voice came out. Weak. Panicked. I can't control it." The demon roared in anger. Daniel's head snapped violently to the side. "You pathetic creature." The demon regained control instantly. Daniel's body turned toward the ritual circle on the basement floor. Then something terrifying happened. Daniel's feet began dragging toward it. Step. 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 But Daniel was fighting. Inside his own mind. His hands clawed at the air. Trying to stop. Trying to resist. Father Elias realized something. "The circle is pulling him." The demon laughed again. "You're right." Daniel's body slowly stepped into the center of the ritual circle. The moment his foot touched the symbol, the entire basement shook. The scratched markings on the floor suddenly glowed faintly red. Old energy. Old prayers. Still lingering in the house. Father Elias quickly moved closer. "This is our only chance." He began speaking in an ancient language. Latin. The same language used in the original ritual. The words echoed through the basement walls. Daniel screamed. But it wasn't just pain. Two voices screamed at once. Daniel's. And the demon's. The glowing symbol beneath his feet grew brighter. The demon's voice exploded from Daniel's mouth. "Stop!" Father Elias continued the ritual. "Exiab hoc corpore." The air grew colder. Wind began swirling through the basement. Old shelves rattled violently. The demon roared in fury. "You cannot force me out!" Daniel's body lifted slightly off the floor. His arms stretched outward unnaturally. Bones cracked. But Daniel was still fighting. Tears ran down his face. "I'm trying." Father Elias shouted louder. "Leave this body!" The mark on Daniel's arm suddenly burst with light. The symbol burned like molten metal beneath his skin. Daniel screamed louder than ever before. The demon's voice turned into a monstrous growl. "You don't understand what you're dealing with!" The priest didn't stop. His voice grew stronger. The ritual circle blazed brighter and brighter. And suddenly, something started pulling out of Daniel's chest, like black smoke being dragged into the air. The demon's presence was separating from him. The creature screamed in rage. "No!" For a moment, it looked like the ritual was working. The dark smoke twisted above Daniel's body, forming a horrible shape. Claws, horns, a face emerging from pure shadow. Father Elias shouted the final words of the ritual. The basement shook violently. The demon's form stretched and twisted in agony. It was being forced out. But then, everything stopped. The glowing circle flickered. Once, twice. Then suddenly, the symbol on the floor cracked. The old ritual circle began breaking apart. Father Elias froze. "No!" The demon's shadow slowly stopped rising. Then it sank back down into Daniel's body. The priest looked horrified. "The circle!" The demon laughed again. But now the voice was deeper, stronger, more powerful than before. "You should have fixed the ritual." Daniel's body slowly lowered back to the floor. His head lifted slowly. His eyes were now completely black. And when he smiled, it was no longer Daniel. The demon looked directly at Father Elias and spoke calmly. "You just made me stronger." Daniel stood in the center of the broken ritual circle. But it wasn't Daniel anymore. His body moved slowly, calmly, as if nothing had happened. The blackness in his eyes had completely swallowed the whites. His smile was unnatural. Too wide. Too still. Father Elias stared in horror. The circle failed. Daniel, or the thing inside him, stretched his neck slowly from side to side. A loud cracking sound echoed through the basement. "Failed?" the demon said. Its voice was deeper now, more stable. "No, Elias." Daniel's head tilted. "You simply reminded me how much power still lives in this house." Father Elias gripped the silver cross tighter. "You're still trapped." The demon laughed. A cold, confident laugh. "You truly believe that?" Daniel lifted his arm slowly. The symbol burned on his skin. But now it wasn't just glowing. It was spreading. Dark veins began crawling outward from the mark, moving under Daniel's skin like living shadows. Father Elias stepped back. "The possession is accelerating." The demon smiled again. "Yes." Daniel took a step forward. "But something you never understood." Another step. "Is that possession doesn't require permission once the door is open." The basement lights flickered violently. The air became heavier. The demon suddenly raised Daniel's hand toward the priest, and the temperature in the room dropped instantly. Ice began forming along the basement walls. "You trapped me in this house." The demon's voice echoed from every direction now. "But houses decay." Daniel's fingers slowly curled. "Rituals weaken." The demon's black eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. "And faith." It leaned closer. "Fades." Father Elias raised the cross toward him. "In the name of God, leave this body." For a moment, Daniel's body shook violently. The demon hissed. Smoke briefly leaked from Daniel's mouth. But then the demon laughed again. "That trick already failed." Daniel suddenly grabbed Father Elias by the throat. The priest's ghostly body flickered violently. Even though he was already dead, The demon was somehow hurting him. Father Elias struggled. "You don't belong here." The demon leaned closer. "Oh, but I do." Its voice dropped into something ancient. Something old. Older than the house. Older than the town. "Because I was never summoned here by accident." Father Elias froze. "What do you mean?" The demon's smile slowly widened. Daniel turned his head toward the old photograph still lying on the table. The man strapped to the chair. The priest standing behind him. The demon pointed toward it. "You always believed that man summoned me." Father Elias looked confused. "That was the official story." The demon's black eyes locked onto him. "But you know the truth." Father Elias's face slowly changed. Realization spread across his expression. "No." The demon laughed again. "Yes." Daniel leaned closer to the priest. "You summoned me." The basement suddenly went completely silent. Father Elias's voice shook. "That's impossible." The demon whispered directly into his face. "You were curious." Memories flashed in the priest's mind. The demon continued. "You wanted proof." More memories. The basement. Candles. The ritual book. The priest whispered. "I was trying to prove demons existed." The demon smiled wider. "And you succeeded." Father Elias staggered backward, horror filling his eyes. "You tricked me." The demon shrugged casually. "That's what demons do." Daniel slowly stepped toward the basement stairs. And for the first time, the basement door slowly unlocked on its own. Click. Father Elias's eyes widened. "No." The demon turned toward him and spoke calmly. "You kept me here for 40 years. Daniel placed one foot on the first stair. "But tonight." Second step. "I finally leave." Father Elias shouted desperately. "Daniel! Fight him!" For a split second, Daniel's hand twitched again. A small crack appeared in the demon's control, but the demon quickly regained it. Too late. Daniel began climbing the stairs. Step. 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 And the moment the demon reached the top, it turned back one last time and looked directly at Father Elias. "You should have destroyed this house." The basement door slowly opened. Darkness filled the hallway above, and the demon whispered one final sentence before leaving the basement. "Now the entire world becomes my house." Daniel's body disappeared into the darkness of the hallway above. The basement fell silent. Father Elias stood alone among the broken ritual symbols. For a moment, he didn't move. The weight of what had just happened pressed down on him like stone. The demon had escaped the circle. Worse, it was inside Daniel. And now it was leaving the house. The priest slowly looked down at the cracked markings on the basement floor. 40 years. 40 years of holding that thing inside these walls. All of it, undone. But then something caught his attention. One small part of the ritual circle. A symbol. It hadn't broken. A single marking carved deeper into the concrete. Father Elias knelt beside it. His ghostly hand passed gently across the symbol. And suddenly, he remembered. The final safeguard. A ritual he had prepared long ago, but never used. Because it had one terrible cost. The priest stood up slowly. "If the demon leaves the house," he whispered to himself, "the ritual must follow the host." Upstairs, Daniel's footsteps echoed through the hallway. Step. 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 But Daniel wasn't walking freely. Inside his own mind, he was screaming. Darkness surrounded him. An endless void. Somewhere far away, he could hear his own voice shouting, "Let me go!" But another voice answered. Deep. Calm. Unshaken. You're still fighting? The demon appeared in front of him. Not as Daniel's body, but in its true form. A towering shadow with long limbs and burning eyes. Its shape shifted constantly, like smoke trying to become solid. Daniel backed away. This is my body! The demon tilted its head. For now. Daniel felt rage rising inside him. You said you needed me. The demon nodded slowly. I do. Daniel frowned. Then you can't destroy me. The demon smiled. Oh, I don't need to destroy you. The creature leaned closer. I only need to break you. Suddenly Daniel felt intense pain shoot through his mind. Memories began appearing around him. His childhood. His parents. His fears. His worst regrets. The demon walked through those memories like a hunter moving through prey. This is where humans always lose. It pointed toward one memory. Daniel crying after losing someone he loved. You carry so much pain. Another memory appeared. A moment of guilt. Something Daniel had always regretted. And guilt. Another. Fear. And fear. The demon spread its arms. This is why humans are perfect hosts. Daniel dropped to his knees. The emotional weight crushed him. I can't. The demon leaned closer. Yes, you can. Its voice softened. Almost comforting. Just stop fighting. Upstairs, Daniel's body had reached the front door of the house. His hand slowly reached toward the handle. But suddenly, something strange happened. The door slammed shut by itself. Daniel's body froze. Behind him, Father Elias had appeared at the top of the basement stairs. His ghostly form flickered violently. You're not leaving. The demon slowly turned Daniel's body around. You again. The priest stepped forward. This ends tonight. The demon smiled calmly. Do you even know how? Father Elias lifted his hand and revealed something glowing faintly in his palm. A small metal object. The demon's smile disappeared. It was a key. Old. Rusty. But carved with the same symbols from the ritual circle. The demon's voice dropped into a dangerous whisper. You kept it. Father Elias nodded. The final seal. The priest's eyes burned with determination. The one ritual that doesn't trap demons. The demon stepped backward. For the first time. It looked nervous. Father Elias finished the sentence. It destroys them. The house began shaking violently. The demon roared in anger. You would destroy the host too. The priest didn't deny it. Yes. Daniel's body froze. Inside his mind, Daniel suddenly looked up. What? The demon's voice filled the void. Your priest friend is about to kill you. Father Elias raised the key and began the final ritual. Latin words echoed through the entire house. The walls began cracking. Windows shattered. The demon screamed in fury. You would sacrifice him? The priest's voice was steady. He's already sacrificing himself. And suddenly, inside the darkness of Daniel's mind, Daniel stood up again. His eyes filled with determination. And he whispered something the demon did not expect. Then let's finish this. The house began to shake violently. Walls cracked. Glass shattered across the floor. The air filled with a deep rumbling sound, like the house itself was screaming. Father Elias stood in the hallway, holding the ancient key in his glowing hand. His voice echoed through the house as he continued the ritual. Latin words rolled from his mouth like thunder. Each word made the house tremble harder. Daniel's body dropped to its knees. The demon roared from inside him. You fool! Black smoke began pouring from Daniel's mouth, from his eyes, from the mark on his arm. The symbol burned brighter than ever before. The demon's voice grew louder. "You think you can destroy me with the dying ritual?" Father Elias did not stop speaking. The glowing key began to vibrate in his hand. Light spread across the walls of the house. Ancient symbols began appearing everywhere. On the floor, on the ceiling, even across Daniel's skin. Inside Daniel's mind, the battle had already begun. The dark void around him cracked open like broken glass. Blinding light poured through the darkness. Daniel stood face to face with the demon. But now the creature looked different. More unstable. Its shadow form twisted violently. Its body stretched and tore like smoke caught in a storm. "You think you can win?" the demon growled. Daniel slowly stood up. His fear was still there. But something had changed. He wasn't running anymore. "You said possession is about breaking someone," Daniel said. The demon's burning eyes narrowed. "Yes." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then maybe you picked the wrong person." The demon lunged forward suddenly. Its massive shadow claws slashed toward Daniel. But Daniel didn't run. He stepped forward instead. The moment the demon touched him, light exploded through the void. The demon screamed in rage. Outside, in the real world, Daniel's body began levitating again. His arms stretched outward. Father Elias shouted the final lines of the ritual. The house shook harder than ever before. The demon roared through Daniel's voice. "You will destroy him!" Father Elias's voice was filled with pain. "I know." Inside Daniel's mind, the demon attacked again. Dark tendrils wrapped around Daniel's body, trying to crush him, trying to consume him. "You are weak," the demon roared. "You are afraid." Daniel struggled against the shadow. "Yes," he said. "I am." The demon squeezed tighter. Then Daniel did something unexpected. He grabbed the demon. The shadow creature froze. "You said something earlier," Daniel said. The demon tried to pull away. But Daniel held on. "You said humans carry fear, guilt, pain." The demon snarled. "Yes." Daniel's grip tightened. "And you're right." Suddenly all of Daniel's memories appeared again. But this time, they weren't breaking him. They were strengthening him. His family, his friends, his life. Everything he had fought for. Everything he refused to lose. "You feed on fear," Daniel said. "But humans survive because of hope." The demon's form began cracking apart. "No." Outside, Father Elias raised the glowing key higher. The final words of the ritual filled the entire house. The demon screamed louder than ever before. Inside Daniel's mind, the shadow creature began dissolving, breaking into pieces. "No!" the demon roared. Daniel looked directly into its burning eyes. "This is my body." The demon's form shattered violently, and a massive wave of light exploded through the void. Back in the real world, Daniel's body suddenly dropped to the floor. The house went silent. The ritual energy vanished instantly. Dust slowly settled across the hallway. Father Elias lowered the key slowly. His ghostly body flickered weakly. He looked toward Daniel. Daniel lay motionless on the floor. The priest whispered softly, "Daniel!" For a moment, nothing happened. Then Daniel slowly sat up. His eyes were normal again. The blackness was gone. The mark on his arm had disappeared. Father Elias breathed a deep sigh of relief. "It's over." Daniel looked around the destroyed hallway. The house was falling apart. "What happens now?" he asked. The priest gave a tired smile. "Now, you leave this place." Daniel nodded slowly. He walked toward the door, placed his hand on the handle, and opened it. Fresh night air rushed inside the house. Daniel stepped outside, free. But inside the house, Father Elias suddenly froze. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Because deep in the darkness of the broken basement, something moved. And a quiet whisper echoed through the ruins. A voice that should have been gone forever. "You really thought that was the end?" Daniel stepped outside the house. Cold night air filled his lungs. For the first time since entering Hillridge House, he felt alive again. The wind moved through the trees quietly. The street was empty, silent, peaceful. Daniel turned back toward the house. From the outside, it looked even older than before. Broken windows, cracked walls, parts of the roof beginning to collapse. The place looked like it might fall apart at any moment. Behind him, Father Elias slowly appeared in the doorway. His ghostly form flickered weaker than ever. "It's finished," the priest said. Daniel nodded slowly. "I felt it disappear." The priest looked toward the basement. "For 40 years I waited for this moment." Daniel looked at him. "What happens to you now?" Father Elias gave a tired smile. "My task here is done." His form began fading slightly. "Without the demon, this house will finally rest." Daniel felt a strange sense of relief. "So it's really over?" The priest nodded. "Yes." Daniel looked one last time at the house. "Good." He began walking down the old path toward the street. But after only a few steps, Father Elias suddenly froze. A strange feeling passed through him. Something he hadn't felt in 40 years. Presence. The priest slowly turned his head back toward the house. His expression changed instantly. Fear filled his eyes. "No!" Daniel turned around. "What?" The priest looked toward him in horror. "Daniel!" But it was already too late. Because something inside Daniel moved. Slowly. Deep beneath his skin. Daniel suddenly stopped walking. His entire body went still. "What's wrong?" he asked. Then he felt it. A strange sensation in his chest. Like something shifting inside him. Something waking up. The priest's voice trembled. "The ritual." Daniel frowned. "What about it?" The priest's expression grew darker. "The ritual didn't destroy the demon." Daniel's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" Father Elias whispered the horrible truth. "It only forced it deeper." Daniel's eyes widened. "What?" The priest stepped backward slowly. "Inside you." Daniel suddenly felt the same burning pain from earlier. But this time, it came from his chest. He looked down at his arm. The mark was gone. But something worse appeared. The skin over his heart began moving. Like something alive was underneath it. The priest whispered in horror. "Oh God!" Daniel's breathing became heavy. "What's happening to me?" The priest finally understood the terrible mistake. "The demon wanted the ritual." Daniel looked at him. "What?" Father Elias spoke slowly. Like he couldn't believe the words himself. "When you fought it in your mind," he swallowed, "you pulled it deeper into your soul." Daniel's chest tightened painfully. The priest continued. "The ritual didn't destroy the demon." Daniel felt something dark spreading through his veins. "It fused it with you." Daniel shook his head. "No, that's not possible." Father Elias stepped backward again. "You're not possessed anymore." Daniel felt cold fear crawl through his body. "Then what am I?" The priest's voice barely came out. "You're something worse." Daniel's breathing stopped for a moment. "Half human." The wind suddenly stopped around them. The night grew unnaturally silent. The priest finished the sentence. And half demon, Daniel stared at him, horror filling his face. That can't be real. Then suddenly, Daniel heard something inside his mind. A voice. Familiar, dark, calm, and very much alive. The demon spoke softly. Hello again, Daniel. Daniel froze. No. The demon laughed quietly inside his mind. You didn't defeat me. Daniel's hands began shaking. Get out of my head. The demon's voice became almost amused. Oh, Daniel. A cold smile slowly spread across Daniel's face. But he wasn't controlling it. This isn't your head anymore. Father Elias watched in horror as Daniel's eyes flickered for a moment. Just a moment. But long enough to see something terrifying. A flash of black. Then Daniel suddenly looked normal again. He looked at the priest. His voice sounded calm. Too calm. What do we do now? Father Elias didn't answer. Because he finally understood something far worse than possession. Daniel was no longer a victim. He was now the demon's doorway into the world. And the demon inside him whispered one final sentence. A sentence no one else could hear. Now we explore the world together. Daniel slowly turned away from the house. And began walking into the night. Free. Or at least, something was. And far behind him, Hillridge House finally collapsed into darkness. But the real horror had already left, walking calmly into the world, inside Daniel. And no one would ever know, until it was too late. Sleep carefully tonight.